Welcome back. Political parties have reacted with shock to the suppression of media freedom and muzzling of journalists at the ENCA news channel. This follows a series of tweets involving its now axed head of news, Kanthan Pillay, and journalist Samkele Maseko. Pillay was fired by the channel yesterday for referring to Maseko as a rat and the SABC as a sinking ship.
The recent events at ENCA have sparked outrage, with claims of mistreatment of journalists and political interference. Political parties are concerned. On Wednesday, former ENCA reporter Samkele Maseko accused its head of news, Kanthan Pillay, of meddling and censoring some political parties, while its reporter, Kayelithle Kumalo, was suspended for posting tweets on the EFF elective conference. The ruling party has welcomed the sacking of Pillay but wants further action.
We're actually welcoming the stand taken by the ENCA to release Mr. Pillay from his position. But this does not stop the Human Rights Commission from doing work to establish whether these incidences that we saw are just isolated or they are deeply entrenched.
The ANC says media freedom should be respected.
The ANC fought for press freedom. The expectation is that yourselves in the media must exercise this press freedom with a maximum measure of responsibility. It doesn't mean that you are exonerated or excluded from the laws of the Republic. There is no one in this country who has got a right to refer to another human soul as a rat. It doesn't matter what authority they wield in society.
But Kosatu has questioned the state of affairs at the channel.
This particular case points to the fact that the media freedom that everybody is talking about is just a myth. If one individual can bully everybody into submission, then that is not really the media freedom that we're talking about. We are talking about someone operating a mini cult here to say everything that I want said has to be said and done in a manner that I want done or said. So the fact that Mr. Pillay went as far as calling someone a rat, I mean, a rat has got serious connotations if you look at how the name has been used in many occasions. It means that it is something that is being hidden from the public, that is done at ENCA, that anyone who goes out and spills it out into the public platform is regarded as a sellout.
Attempts to get comments from the DA were unsuccessful.
Well, online protests on social media platforms have become an increasing occurrence in South Africa. This week has been no different in relation to allegations of editorial interference, racism and bullying at work involving former ENCA news head Kanthan Pillay. In these online conversations, adding the suffix of something must fall in a hashtag has become a classic example of modern-day protest and public engagement on the country's social media streets. This trend dates back to the days of roads must fall and fees must fall social media protests. At face value, social media appears to be a great tool for activists campaigning for social justice. The question we are now posing is, how much power does social media activism wield in modern-day protests? Well, to answer this question, we've asked social media analyst Pritesh Suraj to have a discussion with us in the studio. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thanks for having me on.
Now, Pritesh, how powerful is social media activism?
I think it's massively powerful because it gives people in minorities a massive voice. And what's happening is we now live in a society where you can actually go out and take an individual issue that may have been swept away in the past and now amplify it and take it to a wider audience so that people who have the same thought processes or the same experiences as you can join in that fight and amplify it even further. So it's unbelievably powerful.
Yes, it's more direct. It's also easily accessible. You don't have to wait for an article to appear in a newspaper for this particular issue to come out.
That's correct. It's the instantaneous nature of it that is so powerful, because previously what would happen was when you needed recourse for an issue, an injustice, there was a long process that you needed to go through. Now what happens is you can go and tweet it or post it on a social media platform, and immediately you'll see within a very short period of time, you get a number of individuals who will then come out either in support or against it. And that's where the issue either lives and goes forward or it dies.
Yes. And then you can see the repercussions of an inappropriate tweet.
That's correct, because what happens as well is you know, a lot of people go out there and go, the tweets are mine, they're my own opinions, but that's not true. If you're going out there and you're putting things out there in a social media environment and tweeting information, you've got to see that you're also representing a wider audience as well. So inappropriate tweets don't only end with you, it actually has larger repercussions.
Yes. So the lesson here is that be aware of what you tweet. Now, to what degree has social media changed the landscape of activism and protest in the country?
Yeah, I think if you look at it, and you even have to go back just a few decades, and if you have to look at what type of protests globally, even not just even in the country that existed, you would have the ability to just gather as bodies in a space and protest something and hope that the media actually carries that.
Yes.
And if they don't, it actually dies out. But the way it's actually changed right now is that it doesn't have to be a physical gathering of human beings, but it actually has to be a gathering of minds. And that's what social media has changed. When you have a gathering of minds, and even though there may be geographic limitations and people are really, really far away, that gathering of minds has strong importance when you're trying to change large society organizations, or trying to change government organizations, or even media organizations.
Yes. So Twitter is actually, for example, as a social media tool or a social media application, has then brought people from all over the globe into a particular space so that they can then discuss and thrash out issues that are of importance to them.
That's absolutely correct. And that's it. You're not limited anymore by just people within a certain environment, as I said, by demographics or anything else. It's all about psychographics right now. People who think alike now can come together and share that thinking to a wider audience.
Yes. Now, what about the dangers of misconception or misunderstanding a particular expression, a particular idiom, a particular metaphor? What about the dangers of misunderstanding and misappropriating the meaning of those particular expressions and the collective misunderstanding that Twitter itself can actually bring about?
Yes, that is correct. So one of the big challenges that you have is when you have a wide range of people on a platform with different experiences, they may look at a certain statement and go, that statement resonates either in a positive way, and some may find that it resonates in a negative way. So you will have that kind of challenges that come out. But here's the key test. The key test is once that tweet or that idiom has been placed out on a social media platform, what is the context and the background behind it? And if the context and the background behind it is strong and sound, that individual is protected. But if the context behind it is very weak and then they're using a particular statement, then you're going to find that that person is going to be liable for whatever they're trying to insinuate by that statement.
And then there are at times, you know, the plight of marginalized people and marginalized communities and ordinary voices is highlighted in this social media space. What does this tell us about those who use this digital code?
Yeah, I think what we're seeing right now is there was a time, purely because of access to the technology, this was limited to people who had the money and ability to do so.
Yes.
But right now, as we're going through a space where people have access to data, they have access to these platforms, you tend to find that the issues that are coming up are things that would have normally been ignored by a wide range of people, or even people in power. So now you have the ability of people in marginalized societies, in remote areas, I said that it's not geographically specific anymore, who are able to now speak this to powerful people at much higher levels.
Great. Now, what does the future look like for social media activism?
I think you're going to find that it's only going to grow and amplify. I do believe that you will find greater tests for tweets that are going to go out, because what you don't want is a situation where people now use social media to settle scores or grudges that they may have. So the tests that society has for tweets that are going out are going to be a lot stronger, and organizations are now going to have to adopt this thinking in terms of the protocols that they have internally, and just how to deal with the tweets that are going out there. So you will find that the management of the communication that goes out there is going to strengthen over time. Let's
just go back finally to this ENCA issue. Did this particular issue on Twitter and on social media stand the test that you just spoke about?
I believe it would, and purely because as a person who's outside of the space, and I look at it and go, you had key members of society from political environments, outside of the political environment, and there were even challenges. Thuli Madonsela, very rightfully so, said, if there is a challenge, please ENCA, go out and investigate and come back to us as the people and let us know if this really was a challenge. That was one important thing. Secondly, is you had first first accounts from people who've actually experienced
Yes.
challenges. And it went back to the organization, and they obviously had a look at it and went, this is strong enough and there's a strong enough case to let this individual go.
Yes.
So I believe in terms of the processes that were followed, at this point, it looks
Yes.
like it was.
Yes.
And if any further developments happen, then I'm looking forward to seeing what those developments are.
Yes. And then obviously, if social media did not exist, then Kanthan Pillay would not have been axed.
That's correct. If social media did not exist, then we as the individual, as the public, would have been in the dark about important matters that are happening at a news broadcaster and things that would influence the messaging that is sent to us as the public. And therefore, social media is so powerful. It gives a voice to people who may have their voices cut off by powerful individuals.
Yes.
And now what we're seeing is that thanks to social media, they can amplify that message and find support so that if they find they have been treated well, they can find recourse in other ways.
Okay, good. Thank you very much for coming in and joining us today. That
Thank
was social media active analyst Pritesh Suraj joining us in studio.